Good evening. You're safe here now. Feel free to let the day slip away behind you. Tonight, we'll journey gently through time to cobbled streets, candlelit halls, and the quiet chambers of a forgotten young queen. Her name was Isabella of Valois. She was a child, only 6 years old, when she became Queen of England. She was married to a man 23 years her senior, King Richard II. But this isn't a tale of scandal or drama. No, tonight's story is soft and quiet. It's about delicate courtly customs, the soft rustle of velvet gowns, and the overlooked details of a girl lost in history. Let's take a deep breath and begin. In the late 14th century, in the grand halls of the French royal palace in Paris, little Isabella was born into the splendor of the Valois court. The year was 1389. Her father, King Charles VI of France, known as Charles the Mad, ruled from ornate stone halls lit by torchlight. Isabella was a child of privilege, but her life was shaped by duty from the very start. She would have spent her early days beneath vaulted ceilings, playing with other noble children, running between tapestries that depicted lions, saints, and ancient battles. The scent of rosewater and lavender drifted through the corridors. Nannies in tall linen headdresses watched her every move. She was taught to speak with poise, to sit upright, to pray each morning, and to always remember who she was. When Isabella was just 6, war had been burning between France and England for generations, a long, drawn-out conflict called the 100 Years' War. But there was a moment of calm, a flicker of peace, and into that moment, a political plan was born. King Richard II of England, a cultured and often lonely man of 29, sought peace with France. To secure it, he agreed to marry the young Isabella. It was not unusual in medieval diplomacy for royal children to be betrothed, but this marriage was more symbolic than anything, a peace offering sealed with ceremony. Isabella, too young to understand, was dressed in the finest French silks and gold-trimmed lace, and in 1396 she was led by candlelight to the French-English border. There, surrounded by archbishops, scribes, and curious nobles, a wedding was held. Not of love, but of kingdoms. When Isabella arrived in England, she was not just a guest. She was now queen. A queen, yet still only a little girl. She spoke no English. She had left behind her toys, her home, her mother. The people of England watched her with a quiet mix of admiration and confusion. Some pitied her, others adored her. She lived in the King's Court at Windsor and the Great Palace of Westminster. She had her own chambers, her own attendants, silken curtains, painted ceilings with angels and stars, embroidered cushions with golden lions. There, each morning, Isabella rose before dawn. Servants would help her dress, first in a fine linen smock, then layers of silk and brocade. Tiny golden shoes were slipped onto her feet. She was taught to hold her hands just so, to bow her head when passing holy relics, and to eat with grace from gilded spoons. Though she saw King Richard rarely, he treated her with gentleness. He reportedly gave her dolls, called her his little queen, and allowed her to play in gardens blooming with lavender and rose. Isabella's life was one of routines and rituals. She had lessons in manners, embroidery and prayer. Each meal was a grand affair, even for a child. Platters of roasted game, sweetmeats, jellied fruits, although she often ate separately from the adults. The court was filled with sound, lute music in the afternoons, whispers in the corridors, the rustle of robes and the creak of oak floorboards. She was too young to understand the tensions around her. Richard's rule was unstable, nobles plotted, the people were restless, but in Isabella's world things moved slowly, like the drift of clouds above the castle towers. She would walk with her ladies-in-waiting beneath painted colonnades, watching swans glide across the Thames. There was a garden enclosed by high stone walls where she could smell sweet herbs, gather flowers, and pretend, for a time, that she was simply a little girl. In 1399, just 3 years after her wedding, everything changed. King Richard was deposed by his cousin Henry Bolingbroke, who would become King Henry IV. Richard was taken prisoner. Soon after, he died under mysterious circumstances. Perhaps starved, perhaps murdered. But Isabella was kept in England, still only 9 years old, and now a widow. She was moved to a quiet manor, away from the court. Her crown was taken, but she remained serene, silent, and dignified. She began to write letters to her family in France. She longed to return, to see her mother, to walk again through the gardens of Paris. And eventually, her wish was granted. At age 11, Isabella finally returned to France. But life had shifted. She was no longer Queen of England, no longer a child bride. Now, she was simply Isabella of Valois, and a new marriage awaited her. At 16, she married Charles, Duke of Orleans, a gentleman only slightly older than she. This time, her marriage was not for peace or politics. It was, by all accounts, a quiet companionship. She lived in the chateau of the Loire Valley, among rivers, vineyards, and gentle hills. She embroidered, read books of saints, and gave birth to a daughter. But her story ends early. She passed away before she turned 20. Still young, still overlooked, still forgotten by most. And so ends the story of Isabella, the little queen, married at 6, widowed by 9, remembered by few. But perhaps in the soft quiet of tonight, we've brought her memory to life again, not with grand speeches, but with gentle thoughts, with stillness, with peace. As the candles in the castle flicker low and the stars turn quietly above medieval towers, let your eyes grow heavy. Let Isabella's story drift softly into your dreams. Good night.